Welcome, welcome back to Crafting a Meaningful Life. Are you having a meaningful life? Is this the life you want to live? Because the time to start is like yesterday, but if you didn't start yesterday, start today. And that's what we're here for. I have an amazing guest. Well, all my guests are amazing, but this guy I want to tell you about. So Cory Ivins is my guest today. And I met Cory about a month ago at the Silicon Slopes mental health town hall that we do with Promise to Live, which is an organization that really helps and reaches out to teenage suicide. So we knew we had that in common, that helping and lifting, because we were at the same event. And immediately he turned around, and I don't even know how we got introduced. I think we just did it ourselves, Cory. And there was this sense that I knew him, that I was connected to him, that we had the same vibration. And I just turned to him right off the bat, didn't I, Cory, and say, would you be on my podcast? I didn't even ask you anything about what you do or anything. I just will you talk with me?
Mm-hmm.
It was just
That's
like that.
exactly how it went.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And I just love your smile. Like it's so easy and you're so inviting. And I think that was part of it is you're such a welcoming individual. And so having the opportunity to just say hello, how are you? And have it go from there without any of the weirdness, that
Yeah.
can
There
happen at
was
some of
just
these
like
events.
zero weirdness.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
since then, we saw each other one other time, and it was like, oh my gosh, how are you? We
It was
don't
beautiful.
even
It was
know each other,
beautiful.
but there's a
Hmm.
connection. And I think that I would like to maybe even start with that, Cory. No, I'm not. I'm going to start with a little bit about you so people have a little background about you. But then I want to move into what is it that when you find synergy with someone, how do you recognize that? And what does that say? So let's go back though, and let's tell people a little bit about you, what you do, who you are, where you came from, what was your puppy's name, all those things.
Oh man. Well, how far back should we go?
Well, you tell
Um,
me.
no, my name's Cory Ivins, and I call myself a recovering rascal, but in a lot of ways, kind of a recovering nice guy, where I always thought I was performing for someone else in life
Ah,
and showing up for someone else. And it's not an uncommon thing for men these days to kind of experience something like that. You've got to look a certain way, be a certain way, be, religious or be, very soft and don't be, that version of toxic masculinity that everyone talks
mhm.
about. But that also kind of means that most men don't learn what real masculinity is at all, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a husband, a father. And there are so many men today that are growing up just playing video games or, not doing a whole lot
Yeah.
of anything. And my wife and I had a few years of just real struggle because we were really struggling in figuring out who we were and how we fit together. For the first 10 years of our marriage, we're just checking all the boxes, right? We got the really nice job. We bought the house. We had the dog and the garage and the cars. And we put all of our kids in all the soccer and sports, stuff. And we were doing all the things.
Checking the
And
boxes.
we were miserable at
Yeah.
the end of the day. So we at one point, we had about 3 years of a dead bedroom situation. It was really hard.
Wow.
And by the end of it, we were just waiting for one of us to say the D word, divorce.
Yeah.
But at that time we had, 4 children, and it was
Yeah.
divorce kind of isn't an option in that situation because you don't want to harm those kids. You don't want to cause such a catastrophic event. And so instead of turning away from each other, we decided to turn in toward each other and do the work, to
Wow.
work on the relationship, show up authentically, have the hard conversations and dive deep into those
Mm.
parts of our relationship that we were avoiding. And so in doing so, we're thriving now. Life isn't perfect by any means. We're trying to build businesses and it's hard, but we're better than we've ever been. And that's been the biggest blessing.
I love that. Yesterday I had someone come to my house and they were in the middle of trying to decide, do I step in deeper to this relationship or do I end this relationship? So much
Mm.
the same. And she said, Mary, I don't know how to step in. So I don't know. The very thing that you were talking about was what she was asking me about. Now I know what I told her, but I'd like to see from you, what does that mean when you're like this and you choose to do this? What kind of a process is that, Cory?
Yeah. Well, what I find is most often where most of the pain and the worry and the anxiety and all of those feelings come from is from uncertainty. And so the key word from what you just said is, I don't know how to step into that relationship. You're missing a piece. You're missing something. And so
Yeah.
you're either missing knowledge, you need to know something, or you're missing action, you need to do something.
Mm.
And without one of those two things, you're just living in a world of uncertainty. And the tool that they might need is something like how to create certainty in the relationship, how to create that trust, how to bring peace to that part of the relationship that she just doesn't have right now. And so
Wow.
I would start to dive into that just a little bit. Like, what don't you know? Let's figure that out.
What don't you know? That's a great place to start. What don't you know that you want to know?
Hmm.
And I think that that's always a second vulnerable question is that what don't you know? Well, you know all these things, but what do
Hmm.
you want to know? People are like, well, I don't really want to know about that.
Well, that's a good follow-up question,
Yeah.
right? Do you really want to know? Because if you
Yeah.
know what to do and you don't do it, you've got to live with that. That's
And
a
then
lot of
there's the other
responsibility.
question of not only, but what do you not want them to know about you? What are you still wanting to hide?
Yeah.
For me, that's one of the biggest questions is what is it that you still want to hide? And you
Hmm.
realize that you're not only hiding it from your spouse or your partner in a relationship, chances you've been hiding that from everyone.
Yeah.
And the bigger aha is that you've been hiding it from you, that you don't want to look at it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really
That's
hard.
a big step for you and your wife to make that decision. How many years into the marriage were you? 10?
Yeah, we're about 10 years in. So
Yeah.
we were very established in our marriage.
And you had a lot of patterns, a lot of old stuff that you had to walk away from and choose something different. I think that's the biggest thing that's hard at that point is that, okay, this has been what I've always been doing, kind of that definition of insanity. I keep
Hmm.
doing the same thing. It's going to still be awful. To
Yeah.
What was that like to choose? Like, give me an example of something you chose that was completely different and you had to choose something different that was
Yeah.
difficult.
Oh, I mean, there were so many things. It's really hard. I'd say maybe one of the simpler ideas that had to change was, well, and for the 3 years that we struggled, really struggled, we weren't changing behaviors. We were just trying to do them harder, if that makes sense. So in our coaching, what we call it is thinging harder. So you don't change the behavior, you just white knuckle and you squeeze harder and you just keep on going,
Yeah, yeah,
thinking it's gonna
yeah.
fix it. It doesn't fix anything. And one of the ideas I had to change is that my performance at home. So how effectively was I able to make the money or
Ah,
do the dishes and vacuum the floors and take care of the kids and do bedtime and all those things? That's where I was putting all of my worth. And so I thought that doing all those things as perfectly as I possibly could would mean that my wife would love me more and that it would fix things. And because look at me, I'm showing up, I'm doing all this stuff.
mm,
And it didn't work.
wow. What a great thing at your age, Cory, to step into the understanding of that you were a checklist doer. And if you do all those things, you've got this made. I was
Mhm.
in my 50s before I realized that
Wow.
that what I did not create my worth. my value. And I felt like I wore this giant post-it note on me. Like, sometimes I had to get it on both shoulders so everybody could see what I did.
Mhm. Mhm.
Oh, and then did you check out my back? I've got more things I did on my back. If you know what I mean. And the big one I would wear right here in the middle of my forehead. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
when you finally just take all those post-it notes off and stand there, what is your worth?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and if you were stripped of all your titles, what would you
Yeah.
be, right? So we all wear these badges on us, right? We're entrepreneurs, we're truth tellers, we're best friends, husbands, wives, mothers, fathers, daughters, right? And we have all these titles, but take that all away and what are you?
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, they have no idea.
Yeah. Exactly. One of the things I think is very interesting about this process that you went through, Cory, is that you did it together with your wife because it is, in order for it to work in a relationship, now you can work that on yourself, but in order for it to work in a relationship, you have to have equal commitment and the timing has to be the same. Tell me about that. How did that come about for the two of you?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't come about in the traditional sense. I have a quote that I heard from a friend that said, couples therapy is for healthy couples, not sick ones. And I
Okay.
love, love, love that idea because a lot of couples therapy that I've, experienced or had friends experience, it's like that's where you air out all your grievances and your dirty laundry and you have the fight kind of, with a mediator. And I'm like, why can't
It's
you
a
just
fight with a mediator.
yeah, that's what it is. And how is that going to help anyone? And another thing, I
And
hate
you're
the way
looking
you
for
arrange the shoes.
justification. Aren't I right?
Yeah. And if you don't find a really good counselor, that counselor is going to end up siding with one of the
Yeah.
parties, and that doesn't help anyone. So a lot of times, if you're feeling like your relationship isn't where it needs to be, that's an indicator that you need to go first. And my wife and I were both feeling
Yeah.
it, but I knew I had the responsibility to go first. I knew it. And so I did. I went and found the help. I read the books, I got the coaching, I did all those things to start the process of mending our relationship. And as I just started doing the work, she followed suit because all of a sudden she has permission to do the work too, right? Like she can trust that there's an effort being put forward. But if you don't go first, chances are it'll never happen because you're not giving the other person any kind of permission to do the work that they need to do, even if they know they need to do it. How can they trust
Yeah.
that work's going to pay off if they don't see the other person putting in the work and putting in the effort? And so if you're the one feeling for some reason that your relationships need work, go first. Go first is the thing.
That's the
Start
best
the
piece
work.
of advice I've heard in a long time.
Got to go first.
That's really true because we see others and their faults so easy and we shield ourselves from seeing ourselves.
Hmm.
And just go first.
Yeah. Right.
That's as
And don't
revolutionary as Mel Robbins let them. Okay, that's as
yeah.
revolutionary. You need to write a book just on that. Go first. That needs to be the title of your book.
That's
Go first.
actually what my wife and I want. We want to get a matching tattoo at some point, and we want it to say "Let them," because we've had
Yes.
so many experiences in life where we're told that we're the problem in certain areas, or that we don't fit in, or we're just judged for whatever we have decided to be. But guess what? We decided to be that through the hard parts of life. And
Yeah.
so, like, I dare you to try and change who we are now, because this is what works. And it's
Mm,
working really, really well,
really, really
you
well.
know. And not there are a lot of people that do not agree with our approach.
Really.
Yeah, yeah,
And so they haven't seen that by their fruits you shall know them. I mean, by, this great relationship you have, that you have shown that it's possible and what we
yeah,
did worked. I mean, there's still people who are going, eh.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Really?
we live a little crazy. We're a little less organized, but there's a lot. We have to let some stuff go. It's just not a priority for us. And some people are like, "What do you mean that's not a priority?" And we're like, we're barely hanging on. So we're gonna focus on these core things, but that might mean that like across the weekend or something, we don't clean the house the way we need to, because we need to focus on some of our kids and some of the struggles that they're having. And time with them is more important than the dishes being done, or, everything being vacuumed, or the lawn being mowed or something. And, I definitely get the looks in the neighborhood, like when our
I
weeds are
get
growing
that.
through, but it's okay. It's all right, you
Bless you, my
know?
son. Really,
So,
seriously, I just think that is just phenomenal. I can
uh,
remember being in my parenting years, and my children were probably, oh, certainly not older than 10. And I was obviously very much in the business and doing my thing. I stopped at a friend's house in the middle of the day, and I rang the doorbell. I was dropping something off. Can't remember that part because that wasn't the important part. I went in. She yelled, "Come in," and so I came in, and the first thing I could see through to her kitchen, and she had a pile of dishes in the sink. So my judgmental brain was like, there's some dishes in the sink. And then I turned this way to go into where the dining room was, but I had to go through the living room, and there were unfolded clothes in laundry baskets. And I'm like, well, just, 5, 10 minutes, you could have that taken care of. When I went on around to the kitchen table, there she was sitting with her children, and they were coloring. And I was like,
mm,
what do you mean you're coloring? You have all this mess to clean up. So I said, "Oh, hi, how are you? Hey, do you want me to jump in and help you?" And she said, "No, no, we're just coloring, and we'll do that later." And I was mortified because I didn't grow up in that kind of a home that would choose people first. And as the years went on, I realized I never forgot that scene. Even
mm,
now, 40 years later, I remember that scene. How judgmental I was, but there was such a piece of me, Cory, that wanted to be able to choose the same. I knew even then that that was who I wanted to be. But my old tapes and standards did not let me choose that.
mm.
And you have. What a gift you are for others.
Not easy.
No, because there are people like me going to walk in and see it.
But not you today. Not you
Not me
today.
today. I would have been.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, and imagine, I mean, that's just a little thing, right? Keeping your house clean and,
Yeah.
prioritizing your kids over the chores and things like that. But it can get really, really hard. It can get down to your faith. It can get down to,
Ah,
keeping commitments. That's one of the biggest ones for us is, if we say something, we're going to do it. And even if it's not entirely beneficial to us, like if we're saying we're in, we're in. And there have been a number
yeah.
of people that we've lost in our lives, in our relationships, because we'll make a commitment, and then the day before we do the thing, or whatever, plans change. Hey, we're not going to do it this way, we're going to do it that way. And it goes against kind of our moral code, because we
Yeah.
made a commitment. We're not going to make those changes, and we're like, sorry, then I guess we don't participate. And they're like, what do you mean you don't participate? And we'll just say, look, we made a commitment, and that commitment looked like this, and that's what we all agreed to months ago.
Yeah.
And so if we're gonna be wishy-washy like that, if we're gonna make that last minute change, then I guess we're out. Oh, well, you're bad people. No, we're trying to keep our commitments. Especially because, you're a busy lady, and I find myself busy as well. And so if the event changes from this day to that day last minute, I'll be like, I literally can't attend because I'm
Yeah.
going to another thing tomorrow. Well,
Absolutely.
what about my thing? Your thing was supposed to be then.
Today.
Exactly. Well, that's not fair. Let me tell you what's not fair. So, yeah, it's
Cory,
hard.
I now, all of my friends know that my family comes first.
Mhm.
And if something comes up with my family, I didn't know that's my granddaughter's play. I'm not going to be able to attend. People know. They don't even fight with me. They're just like, Oh, I get it. Okay, it's your
Yeah.
family, you know. Or if I'm looking on my calendar, well, I can't attend that day because um, this is my son's birthday and we have this thing planned. It's always on his birthday, blah, blah. And they don't even fight with me anymore. But
Yeah.
that's a new thing for me.
Mm.
I didn't
Well,
do that when I had my company and when I was working. I took care of all those commitments first and then what was left over. And I hate to say that. That's so hard for a mom to say.
mm,
And always in my head, I was telling myself, well, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing them to put food on their table. Um, I, I always justified it that I was building a business for them.
mm,
And there's still some truth to that, Cory, but now in this age of my life, I'm able to say, really? Or would my kids have been fine living in a smaller house? Would my kids have been fine making less, not doing the vacations we took, if mom had been there?
mm.
And I didn't have the option of a husband that could provide. So this was me, and I felt the weight of it. And there's no such thing as regret. It's one of the worst of the human emotions. I
Yeah.
cannot go back, but I can say now and speak to people, please don't wait until you're 60 to learn this lesson. Don't have to save the money for the therapy for your children. You know what I mean? We definitely are going to need it. You know what I mean?
Like you're gonna set up a trust fund and a
Yeah.
therapy fund.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true.
Oh
And,
my goodness.
this was probably even just 3 or 4 years ago that I went on my second son and I went on a long hike and together. And it was what he gave me for my birthday.
Mm,
And so we were gone for like 5, 6 hours, just the two of us. And he said, so we started talking about his growing up years and what were the most difficult things. And he said, Mom, it was just never knowing if you were going to be home at night.
mm.
Because as a caterer, that's when your events were. And I just wondering where you were and what was more important than me. To hear that out of the mouth of a 40-year-old. So it's why I do what I do, Cory. I want to short circuit the process for
Mm.
people.
I love
I want
that.
them to hear that they don't have to wait until they're 60 to change their marriage or do a gray divorce. That you actually stepped into this at such a young age, for me, relatively young. You know what I mean? Just a pup. Before you were a full grown, mature dog. And you actually changed. That's hope for everyone.
Mm. Thank you. And Mary, I love you for your story, for that what you just shared, because you had every opportunity to say, what do you mean? That's not fair. Look at how hard I worked for you. Look at all the things that I did for you. Look at all the things, like again, the post-it notes, right? Look at this checklist of all the great stuff.
Did you see
And
the one on my big
instead,
toe?
exactly.
Paid for your
But
college.
you took the moment to realize that that was his experience and give
Yeah.
him that space and that credit to have felt such a thing. I know plenty of people my age and younger that are trying to reconcile with a parent, and when they
Yeah.
try to share an experience like that, it doesn't go very well. There's not a willingness to accept and to hear and to even just say, hey, like I'm an imperfect person. I'm sorry that this was your experience. Like this was what I tried for, but I hope you can forgive me. That's not the conversation. It's, what do you mean? I was a great parent. I was all these wonderful things, and it never really, you never really get that reconciliation. And guess what?
Yeah.
Every parent's going to have that reconciliation
Oh yeah,
moment.
we all have that come to Jesus, whether we think we're going to or not. I was the beautiful
Absolutely.
perfect, but you're going to have it. Get
Exactly.
back.
So huge kudos to you.
Uh,
Huge kudos to you for doing that and having the heart enough to just listen to that, and receive it. Even if sometimes you might disagree with with how it went down, but to just be there and hear his heart,
yeah.
as it
And then
means
just to
so
pull
much.
him in and hold him. Just hold him.
Yeah. It's never too late.
It's never too late. And I thought I was being such a good mom. And I think that the thing that makes it so much easier now to do that is that it took me a long time, Cory, but I have learned that the greatest gift that I can give myself and others is the gift of vulnerability.
Hmm.
To be willing to stand naked and to allow others to see all the things, and then for me to look at them as well. That's the gift.
Yeah.
That's the gift.
Yeah.
And that's what you and your wife had to come to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You had to be willing to say, this is me, and work from that point rather than the pretend point, the hiding point, But you had to
Right.
strip it all away and look.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was such, I mean, it's terrifying, especially if this is your first time doing it, and you're
Oh,
in your
right?
30s, 40s, 50s, and this is your first time really
Yeah.
being authentically yourself, and kind of bearing everything without, well, and just hoping that you're received for who you are. And like, Megan and I, we had an opportunity to say no, no, thank you, because we got married on totally different terms. We got married in a totally different way,
Yeah.
and it would have been so easy to just say, well, you're not the man that I married, or you're not the woman that I married. It would have been so easy to do that, and we didn't. We chose love and we chose trust over everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
And it was such a blessing. And that's how you've got like that ride or die, thick or thin partner, is when you can be completely yourself and perfectly imperfect
Yeah.
and still have that person say, I still love you.
I think that's the greatest gift we can give each other. That
Yeah.
safe place where we stand naked, emotionally, physically, spiritually, mentally, socially. I don't really have friends. I just pretend like I do. I mean, when we can say those things to our partner, do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
That and have the very things, Cory, that I thought people would reject me for if they knew are the very things that have drawn people to me. And I wonder, is that not what happened with you and your wife? The things that you feared you would be rejected for are
Yeah.
the things that bound you together.
I mean, our weaknesses are very similar weaknesses. We're entirely different people. I'm kind of a puppy. I'm a golden retriever of a person, and she's definitely
You
the
are.
black cat. She's definitely that. But we find ourselves, and it was kind of like, oh, you're broken too. That's cool. Like, let's be broken
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. I don't
Uh,
have to try and keep up with this perfect person.
hmm hmm
I
Well,
love
and it
that.
shows, and a lot of the, we go to events all the time, and you can tell the difference of the people that are wearing a mask, they're wearing a persona and pretending to be something they're not, and then that person that's just them, and you just love them, and they're gonna be a little brash, or they might swear a little, or they might, do some weird stuff, but
Oh,
you
that
love
would be
them
like
for
me.
it.
Okay, fine.
Me too. Me too, But it's one of those things where you just got to show up as you. You got to be there, years ago, well, only a few years ago, I got like my first tattoo. It's on my arm. It's probably too bright to see, but
I can't see it.
um
What does it say?
yeah, it's a bird with arrows, and it represents healing and wounding and coming home safe and a whole bunch of other things. And I
I
got
love
it
that.
as an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But I got it because it meant something and it was important to me. And
Yeah.
guess what? You get judged a whole bunch when you're wearing tattoos at church.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But like I believed it was for me. I believed it was the right thing. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you follow like some of the church stuff that happens, but like they changed some of the standards for the youth about a year later and all the tattoo stuff was removed. And I'm like, okay,
Really?
cool,
I
pass.
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it was really interesting just how that all played out. So I'm like, you know what? There's a big difference between culture and doctrine, and so let's keep
Yeah.
it going. Let's
Yeah.
see what we can do. But
Absolutely.
it's showing up as yourself and doing what you believe is right, and it's really a doing what is right in spite of the consequences.
Yes. Boy, are we faced with that now.
Yeah,
Doing what is right in spite of the consequences.
yeah,
Yeah. It doesn't matter which side of the political aisle you stand. You are choosing to do what you believe is right, no matter what the consequences,
yeah,
knowing that half of the country disagrees with you. So if I post something on my social media, I know that half of the people that follow me aren't gonna like it.
yeah, yeah. Well, and
and
again,
they might unfollow me, you know what I mean, or anything. But you
they
just
might.
choose to say something because I refuse to not say something. I refuse to be less than what I believe and I'm willing to stand for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Well, that's like in public discourse, right? Everyone used to debate and respectfully, debate and still
Yes.
remain friends on the other side of whatever
We
conversation.
have lost that.
We have lost that. And so I think more dialogue is probably better, but it has to be real dialogue, real thought. And if you're not capable of thinking or writing, that's a huge skill that we're all missing. Yeah, you're gonna pay for it at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Anyway, side
All
tangent
right.
for sure.
Yes, that's okay.
Uh,
Side tangent about politics. We don't want to talk about it anymore.
I love it. I love it.
However, the one thing that I really want to talk about before we end this podcast
Yeah.
is something that I saw on your LinkedIn profile
Hmm.
that just grabbed me. And it was, I help people discover their purpose.
Hmm.
And there aren't a lot of people that put that out. But I put it out. And not that, well, I'm not going to talk about what I think people's purpose is. I'm not going to taint the conversation. But I do have so many people say to me, Mary, I don't have any idea what my purpose is. How did you discover what your purpose is? I don't have, like, is that what drives you? Is that what guides you? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Every single day, every morning, every night. It's with me always.
Mm-hmm.
So I really am interested for you to share with my listeners. How do you discover your purpose?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I mean, loaded question, right?
Right. And
But
you have a minute. No, I'm
so
sorry.
interesting. 1 minute. Okay.
No,
Perfect.
we have
Interesting.
about 5 minutes. And so whatever you can share in 5 minutes.
Oh man. Well, I mean, so in my line of work, I do relationship coaching, and I love picking up the folks that are on the brink of divorce. I love it
Oh,
because I go, okay, you're not lost. Like it's not the end of the world. Let's get to work, and then we can start to do different and figure out what's missing and everything. But then we also do professional coaching. We have a program called Foundry that teaches leaders
yes.
how to be better leaders in the workplace and how to communicate more effectively and actually listen and actually manage your stakeholders, all that. And it all starts with some really, really foundational pieces. We get into what we call identity, and identity is built into two pieces. First of all, it's your core, and the core of you are the key attributes about you that are unimpeachable. They can't be judged. No one can measure them. That is that intrinsic worth, Mary, that you were talking about.
Mm,
Your worth doesn't change
yeah.
just because you're doing something different or because you're not doing enough or whatever other people want to measure out. So these are key core principles about you that no one can take away. They're given to you by God, by your higher power, right? And no one can take them. So for you, Mary, you're going to be a truth teller, right? Like you care about truth. And so no one can take that away. And when you tell the truth, no one can measure you out. No one can say, well, that's wrong or that's bad, right? They can't take that away.
Yeah.
Um, and then on the other side of that, so that's kind of one half of your identity. The other half is what we call character, and that's the part that can be measured, right? Like I strive to do what's right. I work hard. I'm this. I'm that. So these are the things
I'm
that you kind
honest
of
in
get
my
to choose.
dealings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
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 These are your choices. And that's why we call it character, right? Like Dr. King said it best, right? Let's not be measured by the things we can't change. Let us be measured by the things we can choose. And
I
that's our
love that.
character. So
Yeah.
there's our identity. And then the outer layer of that is what we're made to do in this life. And that's our purpose. And most people don't really know how to figure that out. But it includes looking back in the past. And if you could picture a 5-year-old version of yourself, or a 3-year-old version of yourself, or when someone looks at a baby, one of our coaches, her name is Katie Shields. You'll have to meet her. Oh, she was at the Silicon Slopes event.
Oh,
She talks about an event or a story of like when you look at a baby that's newly born, you don't go look at that waste of space.
oh,
All you see in that baby is potential
yeah.
and all the wonderful things that child can do.
And their
And,
worth.
and their worth. Yeah, no one wants to, get rid of a baby being like, "Oh, how worthless." Like they don't do that. They go, "This, like she could be a doctor, she could be a professional, she's going to be a mom one day." Like you just have all of this potential bubbling up inside of this little child. And so go back and look at the 3-year-old you. And then look at the things that she could become and write them all down. What are those things about her that are so pure and innocent and beautiful and full of potential? And then fast forward into like your final days, when people are giving your eulogy. What are they saying about you then? Right? Mary was this, Mary was that, and you write all of those things down. And then what you do is you look for the commonalities between those two things.
Mm.
And when you look at the commonalities and you find those pieces that never changed from early childhood all the way to death, those are the parts of you that are intrinsically you. Then you start to find purpose. Mary was a giver, right? Mary tells the truth.
Mm.
And when you find those things, then your purpose starts to become clear because you've literally mapped out your whole timeline and you found the things that are always true. And then you go, oh, maybe I ought to be doing those things more. Maybe I should focus on those and worry a little bit less about the day-to-day. Maybe worry a little bit less about what people think about, my clothes or my hair or my makeup, and start to care about those key pieces of me that seem to really help people. Because that's where peace comes from.
Yeah.
And and this is kind of a recent development because I thought for a long time that fixing relationships was kind of the key to everything and help fixing them. But what I've realized is that bringing peace to relationships and peace to people's hearts is everything, because that's what's missing in today's world. There is no peace. No one's at peace. Everyone's striving and anxious and hurting in some sort of way. But if we can get down to those key fundamental pieces and you decide, this is the way that I'm going to help the world. This is the way I'm going to help people. It's that action of being there for others and doing for others that brings peace into our hearts. And so that's my life's mission, whether it be on the professional side or whether it be on the coaching side. Let's bring peace.
What a beautiful mission. And you're doing that for couples as well as companies.
Yeah.
I had this visual as you were talking, and I thought of a photo that there's of me at 3, and I kind of looked like Joy from the
Mm,
movie Inside Out, just
yeah.
like so happy, full, so like just like you know. And then things changed for me, and I went through all this darkness and craziness, and anxiety came in, and sadness came in, and embarrassment came in, and all these other pieces that clouded joy. But now that I'm more at this end, I'm more the person I was at 3, as I have healed so many of those pieces in there and learned how to do that. And now I get to be joy again.
Oh,
It's
I love that.
I just saw that. I've never even seen it like that before. But one of the interesting things, Cory, is that for so long I rejected that person who was in those middle years. I didn't want anything to do with them. And I didn't like them. And I just thought, how fast and how far can I get away from this person? And it was just recently, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years, that I finally realized that person I've been trying so hard to get away from, wow, she was incredible. Look how strong she was. She survived all the bullying. She survived all the abuse. She survived this. She was incredible. She was such a badass. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I love her. And I never saw that before. I spent my whole life trying to get away from her. And now that I just love who she is and was, that brought me to this point of joy again.
Mm.
Yeah. Mm.
Mary, that's beautiful. And she pursued you for all those years and never gave up on
She
you.
never gave up on me. Little Joy was just coming as fast as she could.
I'm coming, Mary. I'm
I'm
coming.
coming!
Oh, I love that. That's
The
beautiful.
one thing that I know about my purpose in this life is that my purpose is to be my very best self. Nothing more is required, nothing less either. Just
Yeah.
every day I think about when I get up in the morning, what my day looks like, how can I bring my best self to this situation? And when I lay down, I do kind of like, I brought my very best to all those things. I love that. Thank you, Mary. And
Mm.
when we are being our very best self, the reason it's not narcissistic is this. When you are living in your best self cannot stay turned inward.
No.
Your best self turns out because you want the same for everyone.
Yeah.
You don't want to keep it for yourself. That's not your best self.
No.
Your best self is to lift others. And that's what you're doing, Cory. You've learned these lessons and now you've turned outward. I want to help others. I want to help other couples find this joy. I want to help corporations use these same principles to create this joy in their companies and where they're spending 75% of their lives.
Yeah.
So thank you for turning outward.
Thank you for having this
What's your
conversation.
one?
It's everything. It's
It's,
everything.
it's everything.
Yeah.
Okay, we're way past time, but I'm going to ask you one more thing because
Yeah.
I think I just love all your wisdom. If you were to advise or to give something to someone that would be your one key you want them to look at on how to begin to craft this meaningful life, what is a key you would leave with them?
Hmm. This might sound counterintuitive because it might be something like build a plan, put together goals, or do something like that, right? I would say learn how to be present because that's where your peace comes from. Mary, you do that every day, right? Like, how can I bring my best self? How can I live like today the best day. You're not thinking about what happens tomorrow. You're not thinking about what happens a month from now. It's how can I be here today for the people that I meet today?
Mm-hmm.
And so often we live in the future or we live in the past, right? Anxiety and regret.
Oh,
Anxiety in the
yeah.
future, regret in the past, and it rules our lives.
Yeah.
But if we can understand that this path that we're on, it's rocky and it's bumpy and it's full of, scary forests and tall cliffs and everything. But this path that we're on, if you understand that you can be okay right where you are on your path, and whatever is coming and whatever is passed. And all you have to focus on is taking the next step forward. You don't have to focus on the destination at all.
Right.
You just have to focus on that next best step. Not to quote any kind of Disney movies, but but take that step, and that's all you have to worry about. Because what I've learned, and this was a realization that I had because I'm building a business, and when you build a business, you kind of burn through money and you don't make a whole lot yet. You're kind of
Right.
in that
Right.
transition period. And for far too often it was like, what if I have to go get a day job again, or what if I have to go ask for assistance, or what if I have to do this and that, and it all meant something, right? It meant I've failed, it meant I've done something wrong or whatever. And when I finally came to peace with the fact that this is what I'm meant to do, then it was like, well, if I need to go get a day job, then I just go get a day job, and that's okay. And I can come back to this when the time comes. Or if I need to ask for help, why don't I just ask for help? I'm no less of a person. I'm no less of a provider if I need to ask for help. That's just
Yeah.
the way it works. And coming to peace with that. And you can apply that to pretty much any problem in life, right? If you need to pivot, if you need to make a change, then just make the change. It doesn't mean you failed. In fact, I posted yesterday something about the fact of us being so focused on success and failure in today's world is a huge problem, because every time we have to pivot, make a change, we call it failure. And we talk about failing fast or fail often. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wait. But we're moving forward, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Through
that's
failure.
not failure at all.
That's not
It's
failure.
not. We're just learning as we go. And
What's
we're
the
learning
quote?
what works.
I either win or I learn.
Yeah, that's it,
Yeah.
And what if, because we really don't succeed until we're dead, because we're still going,
Yeah.
right? And so and I've had that moment where it's like, oh, cool, like I was part of a 1%, like I was a 1%er for 2 years, and it felt incredible. And I bought the house and I did all the things, and I'm like, look, we've made it.
Uh,
And then I realized, nope, there's so much more to go. And and I could have plateaued right there, but I didn't, because the opportunity for growth, the fact is, the path never ends until our heart stops beating. So we just got to keep moving. So the make it mentality and the success mentality and the failure mentality is kind of a mistruth. It's misleading, because we're simply on a path. And if we're better yesterday than we are if we're better tomorrow than we are today, that's a win.
that's a
And
win.
let's take that. And Mary, that's your win. That's what you said, right? Like
Yeah.
when you put your head on that pillow and you showed up as your best self,
Yeah.
that's your win.
And if I didn't, that was in the past.
Yeah.
And I don't have to carry it into the future.
Right?
If for some reason I didn't make it to the gym, I don't have to beat myself up. I can just say, well, it's a good thing I'm going today.
Exactly.
And, if I, didn't make it to an event that I had promised somebody,
Mm-hmm.
I can be sorry for that, but I don't live in regret, because I'm going to show up for them in a different way.
Right.
And I'm going to do that today.
Yep. And that's Mary moving forward.
Mary moving forward, Cory and Megan moving forward. And everyone, you're offering everyone this gift. Cory, thank you for being with us, and your wisdom, your joy that you're living in. It's obvious, and your ability to share and desire to share with others. I think that's such a wonderful thing. And as I say goodbye to our listeners today, that your piece of advice to live in the present, not the past, not the future. I like that. That's regret. That's worry. This is joy.
Yep.
And this is where your purpose is found and brought every single day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cory.
Oh,
And
you,
thanks
Mary.
to all of my listeners for being here to hear this wonderful man. At the end of this podcast, you'll have links how to find him, how to follow him, how to, where his company is, so that you can actually, if you're struggling in your personal couple relationship, this is a guy who's walked the walk and talks the talk. Yeah. So thank you all for being with us today. And may this week be a week of crafting your most meaningful life every single day. Namaste.
Namaste.
Crafting a meaningful life.